So the US finally did it. They added silver to the critical minerals list. And for many of the reasons I have been saying that silver is so important for years, whether it be medical, industrial, so on and so forth. In fact, I want to take a look at this article right here. And this article says that the US government has officially added it to the critical minerals list. Here's what that means for policy, tariffs, and why it could support long-term price stability rather than explosive gains. So he talks about the announcement right here. We're not going to read all of this, but we will go down to this because I've talked about a lot of this on the channel. So it talks about the critical US uses of silver, energy and power systems. So solar panels use silver paste to convert sunlight into energy. Electric vehicles rely on silver contacts, connectors, and switches. Power grids and inverters use silver for conductivity and durability. Electronics and data infrastructure, it talks about microchips. Data centers, 5G network speeds depend on silver in antenna arrays and transceivers. Medical, healthcare, and technology. Silver's antimicrobial nature makes it vital for wound dressing and instruments, and used in diagnostic sensors, imaging devices, and infection-resistant coatings. Defense and aerospace, found in radar, satellites, and missile systems for reliable data transmission, used as a high-temperature lubricant in jet engines and spacecraft, provides reflective coatings for infrared and targeting optics, acts as a catalyst in production of key industrial chemicals, used in water purification and antimicrobial applications, crucial in soldering, brazing, and high-precision manufacturing. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. Many of us already know how important silver is, but, we've been talking about this for years, about how silver is so important in so many different instances. And I've said it many times, especially when silver was in the teens and 20s, why I didn't understand why silver was so low, especially when gold was making its huge wave and silver was just kind of lagging behind. Now, of course, that has changed. I mean, if we take a look at this year chart, so this is just 2025 here on SD Bullion's website, you can see we started off this year at under $30 an ounce. And while we are certainly down from our peak of $54.24 that we closed at on October 16th, we are still sitting at $48.50. So while we did talk about it for years about why was silver lagging, it is certainly clearly shown that it is time for silver to make its move, and it has. But of course, we need to take all of this with a grain of salt, because this doesn't necessarily mean that silver is always going to stay in the 40s or 50s, and it certainly doesn't mean that it's going to skyrocket, because as I've said, and I just showed you in that article, but I've said many times on this channel, and remember, this is not financial advice. I do not give financial advice. I'm not a fly on the wall of these boardrooms, but it makes sense that the people in the positions that have to acquire said silver for all of these different industrial, medical, military applications, it makes sense that they would want the price to remain low. And for that reason alone, I think many people believe that silver has been manipulated for years and will continue to do so. Will they be able to always control the price of silver? I don't know. And are they? I might think they are, but again, I don't know that for sure, but it certainly looks like it. I mean, if you compare, as I've said many times also on this channel, the amount of silver that's coming out of the ground compared to gold, which is around 8-1, and then you look at the GSR of around 80-1 or so today, and then you look at the fact that silver has higher industrial use than gold in many, many categories. I mean, in just overall demand in industrial use, silver per ounce is way higher. It doesn't make sense that 8-1 equates to 80-1 on the price value, does it? It does not, to me at least. Let me know what you think in the comments. But guys, there is more in that article that I want to share with you, and we are going to do that because he also gives like an air of caution, and I think you guys should listen to it. So I'll show you that in a minute. But first, guys, we do have a special video sponsor for today's video. So we are going to run that really fast, and then we'll get right back to that article. Today, we are looking at one of the most important global shifts happening right now. It goes beyond headlines about trade, tech, or currency. What is quietly reshaping global power is control of critical minerals, and copper is quickly becoming one of the most strategic resources in the world. Now, before we dive in, this video is sponsored by Giant Mining Corp, ticker BFGFF. They own the Mujaba Hill Copper Project in Nevada, a past-producing U.S. copper mine in one of the most proven mining regions in the country. And the company is currently trading near its 2025 lows, down almost 70% from earlier this year. So let us look at the macro picture first. The United States and China are in a real contest for mineral and technology dominance. Copper is essential for defense, energy systems, power grids, and artificial intelligence infrastructure. China dominates copper refining, and the United States is pushing to reverse that. Since President Trump returned to office in January of 2025, the administration has moved aggressively to restore U.S. mineral independence. In February 2025, Executive Order 14 to 20 launched a Section 232 investigation into copper imports. That investigation was completed in June and found that foreign copper reliance, especially on China, is a national security vulnerability. So in July, a presidential proclamation was issued, and on August 1st, the United States placed a 50% tariff on semi-finished copper imports like wires and cables. Also in August, copper was added to enforcement scope under the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, and on October 6th, the Ambler Road project in Alaska was approved, unlocking access to major copper and zinc resources. And the U.S. Geological Survey has proposed adding copper to the 2025 critical minerals list, along with silver, potash, and silicon. A well-known mining billionaire recently said the world will need an astronomical amount of copper over the next 2 decades, and that when a resource becomes essential, traditional pricing logic does not apply. And many see this as the early stages of a new long-term U.S. copper cycle. Which brings us back to our sponsor, Giant Mining, ticker BFGFF. Their Mujaba Hill project in Nevada has historical production of roughly 2.8 million pounds of copper, 184,000 ounces of silver, over 5,000 ounces of gold, and 21,000 pounds of tin. The site already has road access, water, power, ore stockpiles, and space for future processing infrastructure as development advances. Despite national momentum behind U.S. copper, Giant Mining stock has not recovered from the April market pullback and is trading near its lows. That is one reason that some investors view this stage of market as a potential early entry window. Now, if you would like to learn more about Giant Mining, ticker BFGFF, there are links in the description below with additional information and company materials. But please remember that I am not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. This segment is sponsored and the company provided information, but this is not a recommendation to buy, sell, or trade any security. Always do your own research and consult with a licensed financial professional before making any financial decisions, and remember that investments like this can be high risk and you could lose some or even all of your investment. Nothing in this video is a guarantee of future results. All right, so I want to get back to the article because the writer made some really good points. So I want to share some more of it with you. And we're going to go right here. It says, why silver matters now more than ever. And it says right here, silver is more than a precious metal. It is a building block of modern civilization. Every smartphone, solar panel, satellite, and medical sensor relies on its unique electrical and thermal properties. The U.S. imports the majority of its silver, leaving critical industries vulnerable to global supply chain disruptions. And then it says, recognizing silver as a critical mineral signals that policymakers now view it as indispensable to national resilience. From powering renewable energy infrastructure to enabling data transmission in 5G and AI systems, silver is a quiet but irreplaceable driver of the modern world. Now, he does say a few more things, and he does err on the side of caution here, and he actually even quotes another YouTuber who released a video on this the other day. But right here, we'll go under policy significance. He says, by classifying silver as critical, the U.S. gains authority to review how import dependence could affect national security. And then under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, the government can investigate whether reliance on foreign silver threatens strategic industries. If such risk is confirmed, it could lead to tariff adjustments or targeted imports limits designed to bolster domestic productions. And then it does say no new tariff actions have been announced, etc., etc. Under here, though, and this is where he actually says something about Sal's video. And Sal had a really good video on this, by the way, so I'll put a link down below. But it says, financial markets responded calmly to the news, which is appropriate. The listing doesn't change supply overnight or guarantee higher prices, as I said. What it does is acknowledge silver's strategic value right here. And then the writer says ensuring it receives attention from both policymakers and investors. This attention can improve stability by promoting domestic production and recycling over time. And then he, right here, it doesn't look like he quotes Sal, but he says what he said. So it says right here, YouTuber Salivate Metal commented that the move is unlikely to make silver's price skyrocket. And we've actually seen that. It really hasn't moved very much, since this happened on November 6th. But it could help keep it from falling too far. He described it as a strengthening of the floor rather than a raising of the ceiling. And then, of course, interpretation reflects reality. The critical designation is not a speculative trigger, but a safeguard against complacency. So we'll read the bottom line, and he puts a lot of sources down here: Federal Register, USGS, Financial Times, Reuters coverage, and commentary by YouTuber Salivate Metal in November 2025. But it says, finally, the bottom line says silver's inclusion on the critical minerals list is an overdue acknowledgement of its importance to modern life. It likely won't send prices into the stratosphere, but it sets a foundation for lasting stability, improved domestic policy, and potential trade protections. In essence, silver is no longer just a precious commodity. It is now officially recognized as the cornerstone of the American industrial ecosystem. All right, guys, so I think that was a really good article, and I agree with the majority of it, which is why I read more of it to you than I normally do. As you guys know, I usually don't read the majority of an article to you. I just kind of show you snippets and then let you do it yourself. But it was such a good article, I had to share it. And I think you guys, most of you at least, probably agree with the sentiment there and with what Salivate said. And I think the writer probably saw Sal's video before he made his article. I don't know, but what I do know is that I agree with them. I think that while this isn't going to cause silver to skyrocket, and there's a lot of reasons for that, which I mentioned earlier in the video, it does provide support for silver's floor. And what I mean by that is, more people are opening their eyes. They're awakening to the fact that silver is important, and it's used in so many different things. I mean, the screen you're watching this on right now, if you're on a cell phone, the antenna that's bringing the data to you, it all uses silver. And while it's a minuscule amount, remember how many cell phones are out there, how many TVs and monitors and cameras and EVs are there now being created, medical applications, etc., etc. So much has silver in it. Way more industrial demand, medical demand than there is for gold, for sure. And yet, as I said earlier, gold is coming out of the ground, only 1 to 8, or 8 ounces of silver per 1 ounce of gold, right? And yet it's priced 80 to 1. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. What do you guys think? So anyway, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought of this video, guys. If you liked it, I would love to know with a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And as always, please don't forget to stack long, stack heavy, and we will see you next time.